impact does the departure of so many top-level staff on a business as big as Tesco have? I'm joined by Professor Colin Turner, a management expert and advisor to several chief executives. Professor Turner, nice to see you. Look, I guess it's a matter of common sense, isn't it? When you lose the chief executive and the chairman and the finance director all in 1 year, it's going to have an adverse impact.
Well, massively, and I think they haven't put provisions in place for too many years. Let's look, it hasn't happened overnight this, it's happened over several years. So Terry Lee was focused on turning this from a UK grocer into an international retailer. And he built hypermarkets to cash flow that whole thing and fuel it. Well, if you build these massive buildings around here without a solid foundation, they're not going to stay up. Those foundations require good, solid management. Now, they've grown management within, and Philip Clarke is literally started in his father's store, which was a Tesco manager, when he was 14. So he knows it's in his DNA. But at the same time, you've got to have good, solid management. So when Terry Lee achieved his goal, got rid of everybody, everyone went with him, suddenly we have a void of good management, and that's impacted exactly what's common sense.
So this is all about succession, because of course if you rewind the clock, when Terry Leahy took over from Ian McLaurin, that was judged, I think at the time, as a great success. What you're saying is that Leahy botched his own succession.
Leahy was purely entrepreneurial. He wanted to turn it into an international retailer. Now what's required now is a structure that reflects the size of it, and that means internal restructuring, but at the same time they have to resharpen the innovative marketing that is the key in the UK and allowed to go blunt.
What about Philip Clarke, Terry Leahy's replacement? He's an insider, as you said. He's been there pretty much all his working life. There are some pluses and minuses in that, aren't there? I mean, he's been an understudy for a long time. Some people would prefer a fresh face, a new invigoration of energy, a bit like Mark Bolland at Marks & Spencer.
Very good point. He was brought in, Philip Clarke was brought in because Terry Lee had created the international expansion. What best person to now sustain that was somebody who has the DNA in his blood. So what he has already done, Philip Clarke, is restructured it to put in a UK chief executive so that he can concentrate on the global expansion. But already, even though there's 19% growth in like-for-like sales in the US, practically all the fresh and easy shops that he's opened have been sort of empty over the Christmas period. So what's happened really is that although he was put in by Terry Leahy literally to continue the expansion and put the structure in place, he also needs to have that external perspective from other experts to come in, because what's happening is they're forgetting the UK, and that's what's imploding us now.
Now, what about the role of the chairman in all this? The outgoing chairman, Sir David Reed, was a Tesco long-term employee, had been there in the post 7 years, was very well respected and could put his arm around Terry Leahy and probably say, Terry, don't do that, take my advice. The new chap, Sir Richard Broadbent, city grandee, knows nothing about retail really, has never been a retailer, he was a banker.
Yes, and perhaps the relationship isn't a mentor-mentee as well, which is quite important. So I think he's quite alone. I think we're going to be seeing that he's saying this hasn't happened overnight. He's inherited something which was bound to happen on Sir Terry's watch. So I think it's a struggle for him. But let's not forget that this year alone, the company will still make over 3.5 billion in profit. So it's a very successful company. Now, clearly, his city skills of delivering the news was pounced on by jittery markets to say, look, this is another good key for what's happening. So we've also got to keep some common sense in the city too.
Yeah, they haven't managed expectations very well.
They haven't managed expectations at all, but they still have got a big growth programme. But at the same time as a growth programme, they mustn't forget their core market, and the core market of the UK, and what made them, if you like, was that innovative marketing, that cutting edge, which they've allowed to go, and they've really got to get back to that too.
Finally, Professor Turner, good companies come, good companies go, brands do die. Are we seeing the beginning of a long period of underperformance by Tesco?
History shows that companies that become almost believe their own propaganda, become an arrogance, they can become professional complacency, and they think, oh, people are going to buy anyway. Just because they've got a loyalty card doesn't mean you're going to keep the loyalty of customers. And when customers walk, they vote with their feet. And we saw yesterday Sainsbury's got 2.1% and Tesco's go down. In the UK, it's a small country, and based honestly, if you're going to take away from Tesco, you're going to put it in Sainsbury's. So we are going to see a change which could take a little bit of time for that tanker to change direction.
All right, Professor Turner, nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Jeff.